of the commitment that we have, but most of all, we need to accelerate action across sector, across level of government, but also across all parts of our society. This is indeed a challenge, but it also represents an incredible opportunity to drive forward transformation that will influence not only our society today, but in particular our societies of tomorrow, from an environmental, a social, and also an economic point of view. Of course, local governments have a key role to play in supporting, but also in leading the way to this transformation and to help meet the objectives of the Paris Agreement at the speed and at the scale that is required. We all know the cities are home to around 75% of our energy demand and consumption. And as such, they are a crucial actor when it comes to delivering on the energy transition. But not only that, as administrator, they are, of course, in charge of providing services to their community and the community they represent, but also they are supposed to lead by example, to show the good way for implementation, and they catalyze action and they catalyze innovation and drive innovation forward. This is what we want to discuss today. In order to be able to ensure energy transition, when we talk about reaching our objectives of decarbonization and resilience, of course, we are talking about some very tangible examples of what cities need to deliver and what the transition actually looks like on the ground. We talk about more energy efficient buildings that can provide better, cleaner access to energy, but also safer conditions for our population, and healthy occupants in these buildings. We talk about decreasing energy demand to address and to reduce the impacts of energy poverty. And we talk about providing access to energy, to modern electricity, and this is an issue that is affecting around 13% of the global population, and it impacts not only on the actual energy system, but it impacts very much on the opportunity to get jobs and the opportunity to get education. So because of this key role, we are, of course, at a critical juncture right now where local government can drive this momentum and ensure that we can scale up the actions that is needed. Now, the good news is, with all of these different challenges that we are facing, of course, cities are already very well aware of the task that is ahead of them. And this is very, for example, exemplified by the 12,800 cities that have already joined the Global Covenant of Mayors, voluntarily committing to ambitious climate action that is at least as ambitious as their national NDC, and to really roll out this important work of the ground. But as I mentioned at the very beginning, of course, cities cannot do this alone. We need cooperation with the national governments, we need cooperation with the business sector, to bring together with us, of course, stakeholders, civil society, and the community at large. This is the backdrop of our urban transitions mission that exactly wants to mobilize these different type of actors across the board to really trigger and foster systemic innovation. And it wants to achieve that by fostering capacity building, of course, but also by empowering global cities to adopt the solutions that we are discussing. And to do so, we will be working with a direct cohort of cities, 50 cities, the one that I already kind of mentioned, that will be joining us starting from today, to really try to apply these integrated pathways. And after that, this is only the beginning. We will scale up this engagement to another 250 cities. They will be joining us, and they will be, of course, working with us to test these pathways and to inspire furthermore their peers across the world. So we have here the pleasure of have a few very distinguished panelists that will be able to discuss with us why it is important to accelerate innovation, what type of innovation is needed. Is it only technological, or do we want regulatory innovation? Do we need new financial solutions? What is needed on the ground to really facilitate the systemic approach? How can cities become not only the place where there is a demand for innovation, but how can they become important solution providers to the question that we have? And how can we help them becoming this fully unlocking their potential to reach the NDCs together with the national governments and all the partners across the board? How do we support and mainstream this type of action that it's needed on the ground? So, as I mentioned before, to answer these questions, of course, I will not be alone. I will be joined by a number of speakers, starting from Alison Gilliland. She is the Councillor of Dublin City, Ireland, and the European Union Committee of the Regions Rapporteur on COP27. So thank you very much for being with us, Alison, to not only to bring, of course, the perspective of your cities, but also of the entirety of the representation that the Committee of the Regions provide across the board for local governments in Europe. We have Mohamed Sefiani. Hello. It's the mayor of Chefchauen, Morocco, and also a regional ambassador for the Global Covenant of Mayors, and very active in a number of city networks, both in Africa, in Morocco, but also across the globe. And we will hear a little bit more about his perspective on this integrated transition. We are joined by Anna Krzyzanowska. She is an advisor at the Advisor for Mission Innovation at the Directorate General for Research and Innovation of the European Commission. Thank you very much for being with us, Anna, and we are really curious to learn more about why are cities so important and why is research and innovation in cities so important for the European Commission. Then finally, we will have with us Marilia Carvalho de Melo. She is the Secretary of Environment of the state of Minas Gerais in Brazil. Thank you very much for being with us, and looking forward to see also how multi-level governance can be put into practice across the different levels that we have. And then finally, last but by no means the least, we have with us Massamba Thioye, is the project executive representative from the UNFCCC Global Innovation Hub, is a star panelist and speaker in this hub in particular. So we are very delighted that you were able also to join us for this specific conversation. So to begin our conversation, I wanted to hear a little bit the perspective, let's say, from the ground. So maybe I will start with you, Mayor Sefiani, if that's okay. What do you think are the main gaps and the challenges that you see in your community when it comes to delivering on net zero pathways? And I know you have applied to be one of the UTM cities. I will tell you, together with the announcement, whether your city make the cut. So suspense also from that perspective. But of course, please do share. What is your vision and what are the challenges that you see on the ground?
Thank you. Well, yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Giorgia, for inviting me to this very important event. So I'm very, very happy to be with you today. I am waiting the news in the end of this session. I don't know, sincerely, I don't know what the result, because my city, Chefchauen, is candidating in this very important initiative. I am mayor of Chefchauen. Chefchauen is a blue city in the north of Morocco. It's an intermediary city, and my city is committed to the green, to the sustainability, to climate action. We have a local political commitment. We work on that, and we need to localize the climate agenda at local level, but there are challenges. We don't have all the resources. We don't have human resources prepared, sufficient human resources prepared. We don't have logistic and finance sufficient to implement our climate action plan. And we have joined GCOM, Global Covenant of Mayors, for climate energy since the beginning in 2017, and we're still there, but we need technical assistance, we need more support, and ultimately we joined the Race to Zero and Race to Resilience, so we have a strong commitment, and we know that without cities we can implement climate agenda. So in this sense, we are working in this IT. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe then I will continue and ask again for a local perspective. Alison, maybe from your end, both on the experience of Dublin, but also from other cities across Europe. What are the challenges, the key challenges that you see to a net zero transition? By the way, Dublin is part of the European Cities Mission, so maybe you can tell us about that as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Giorgia, and good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, Dublin is the capital of Ireland, and Ireland is an island to the west of Europe. So we have some of those problems that island nations have with regard to connectivity and our dependence on air and sea. Like many other countries, energy is a massive problem with us at the moment. The war in Ukraine is really escalating energy costs, so people are seeing their pay packets disseminated. We and local authorities have seen the costs of the measures that we're implementing and want to implement rise, so we've had to readjust our budgets. We very much depend on grants from national government to fund our budget, so financing is a huge challenge for us. We would like to scale up more of what we do, and we would like to speed up more of what we do. We have great plans for a district heating scheme that would take waste heat from a particular large conglomerate and transfer that to use for a new urbanisation centre we want to build. But unfortunately, we've only got a small amount of funding to look at viability for that, when we actually want to build the entire thing and build it faster to meet those energy costs, but also to help us in that transition towards a cleaner, greener energy. We also need to green our planning regulations a little bit more. We do have requirements for NZEB, but we don't have, let's say, more technical requirements around perhaps requiring all buildings to have solar panels that would help heat the water in those buildings, both reducing energy use, but also energy costs for those who live in them. We do have a difficulty as well with joined up thinking, where we as a public housing body will get grants to retrofit housing. We can't work with the same private owners on the same road and go in and retrofit houses street by street, because I do think we need to get that granular on the ground and work street by street, community by community to support them. I would also identify gaps perhaps in education and communication. We've a lot of tension at the moment between those who drive their private vehicles and don't see as yet a reason to leave their cars behind and get into public transport, or perhaps get on a bicycle, which is even better for health, both the air and one's own mental and physical health. But we are working on the ground more than every other community and every other city here, and we're trying to overcome them. And as a member of the Committee of the Regions, we are here to advocate for a greater role for cities and regions in those formal structures of the UNFCCC governance framework. We want a seat at the table. We want more collaboration and cooperation with our national governments and with the EU and with COP in general, with the parties. And I think we're at the forefront. We implement 70% of all mitigation measures, 90% of all adaptation. We are there, we're doing it. And I think you mentioned the Covenant of the Mayors. I know, is it 70% of those cities signed up are actually exceeding their national NDCs. So for us, there are gaps, there's challenges, but we are really there at the forefront, and we want to do more and do it quicker.
Thank you very much, Alison, and also Mohamed, for your points. So we talked about social challenges in bringing the population together with us, but also the issues, of course, that we are facing, for example, in this specific context with a number of crises that are somehow combined. Climate change, we're coming out of a pandemic, now an energy resilience, security that we have as an issue, crisis across the world, but also finance, of course, everlasting challenge, of course, for cities, as well as the point about regulation that was brought up. Marilia, I would like to go to you now to ask you, from the perspective, of course, of a state level, are these the challenges that you see in your cities? And by the way, I had a number of cities also from your state applying, and you can also know at the end of these sessions who was selected. So a little bit of suspense also for you.
Oh, yes. thank you very much, Giorgia, for the invitation. It's a pleasure for us to be here. So Minas Gerais state is a Brazilian state located in the southeast, and we have 852 cities, 53 cities in our state. So it's a big challenge to have all the cities on board with us to achieve our goals in climate change agenda. But we are sure that without them, we can go forward. In our perspective, to connect all government levels is so important to reach our goal to decarbonization. Minas Gerais state was the first state in Latin America and Caribbean to sign the commitment to Race to Zero campaign. So to work with the cities in our state is a crucial thing to achieve these goals. As the cities are responsible for most of policies that affect their territory, it's crucial to have them align in the climate agenda. For us in Minas Gerais, energy is a key sector in our inventory that we just update now with the collaboration of ICLEI under two coalition. In the cities, especially in Brazil and in our state as well, we have a big challenge in transport sector. Brazil is a country, and Minas Gerais as well, where the transportation is usually doing by private cars. So we have to improve our collective, our public transportation, and this is very important to reach our goals of the decarbonization. In adaptation agenda and mitigation as well, the cities play a very important role, especially in extreme weathers that are impacting our urban areas with relevant impact causing in economic and social losses. Because especially on floods, but as well as in water supply due to the droughts that we are dealing in our state. So we are working with the cities to try to build capacity in they to develop their own agenda with support of the state. We are collaborating with the ICLEI and we have some programs, but we are sure that without them, we can reach our goals in our state.
Well, thank you very much also for spelling out some of the key sectors actually that are crucial for the transition, but also very difficult to work with and to abate emissions. You mentioned mobility. I can share that among the many cities that have applied for the urban transition mission, definitely urban mobility was one of the key issues that was raised, but also very much your point around adaptation and the integration between mitigation and adaptation highlighted together with the energy, green and blue infrastructure as key elements for a proper holistic transition. So thank you very much, Marilia, for that. And now I would like to hear maybe from Anna a little bit of your perspective, not on the challenges, but maybe Anna, how do you think we can work together, with cities across the board, across sectors, to really try to unlock the full potential of cities, to really help them become solution providers as much as possible? What do you think is the key steps? What are the reasons for which it's so important?
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me here in the Innovation Hub. I'm a great admirer of the Innovation Hub. Giorgia, the response to the questions in the question. We basically need to work together. You've nicely introduced the European mission, so I'm going to come to it in a moment. But let me first perhaps try to answer the question from a different perspective. I see our need to work together at 3 different levels. First, cities are not abstract entities. There are places where real people live. These people, as most people do, will resist change unless they are convinced, and not only convinced, unless they feel the need for that change. So the first element of our working together, working with cities, is working with the citizens and making sure that the citizens are driving that change and transformation. The other aspect of working together is working between and among cities, because it is not top-down. We've been doing a lot of top-down issue. We've been doing a lot of developments. You know, this is the best thing, Mayor Sefiani, ever. This is not terribly credible. The actual credibility comes from working with your peers and trying to understand how practically this is being done. And here perhaps innovation is the guilty party, because we work with a lot of scientists who know absolutely everything about a very minute solution to a problem. If we come with all these solutions in transport, in energy, in biodiversity, in whatever, you probably don't have enough hours in a day to listen to us, however fantastic those solutions are. So we need to make sure that these practical solutions are discussed among practitioners and the way that they need it. And the third aspect is to make sure that whatever the government is doing on innovation, they are not doing it in abstracto, that cities are part of planning and designing programs for innovation, so that the solutions that we bring on the table are relevant to the cities. So I would say this brings us to the mission. What we have realized, that none of our programs in the past, however well intended, was fulfilling these three conditions. Working on the needs of citizens, working in practical way for the practitioners, and working in such a way that it means something and can be implemented relatively fast. And that's how missions were born. We no longer try to take one technology, let's say carbon capture and storage, and try to figure out what we can do in it. We try to find an objective of decarbonizing cities in a particular time and bring all these technological solutions for that. That's how the missions were born. They are working with 100 cities in Europe, and they are bringing the same approach to the global collaboration with the urban transition cities.
Thank you very much, and I think your point on solutions that are available out there, but somehow don't trickle down to the needs that are actually the urban needs for the practitioner on the ground is an essential component. And I know it's many years that we talk about partnerships, but hopefully I think now there is an understanding that it's time to. We are all on that page. It's time to start writing on that page how we collaborate together. And this brings me to you, Massamba, I would say, because I know that when it comes to considering cities as a place where people live, need things, organize their life, enjoy their life, but also for struggle with what they need, it's very important to understand how do we bring it down to the of the people and the needs that they have. So can you tell us a little bit about cities as solution provider, but also the wonderful vision of the Global Innovation Hub, and how, I have to admit, you're one of our star partners in our Global Innovation Alliance of TM, so it's particularly a pleasure to have you in our panel.
Thank you, Giorgia, and good afternoon to the audience, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to those that are following us virtually. So my name is Massamba Thioye. I'm the project executive of the UN Climate Change Global Innovation Hub, and I'm very pleased to host this very important dialogue, and very happy to be part of this panel. Cities are extremely important for us, the Global Innovation Hub, because of the fact that they are very close to their citizens. They are very close to people. So if you want innovation to serve cities in a very effective manner, and building on what Anna has said, we need to start by painting the future that we want for our cities. What is the future within our cities that we want for us, our children, and our grandchildren? And this should be the starting point for any innovation process. And then we backcast to define for the short and medium term actionable objectives that will allow us to bring into motion and to achieve this vision that we have defined. So of course, and this is normal for all visions that are really bold, we will not have all the solutions that are required now to achieve that vision. Some of these solutions maybe will not exist. Others will exist, but we will not know even that they exist. Some of them we will know, but they will not be accessible to us. But that's not an issue. Then what needs to be done is to translate the gap between where we want to be and what does it mean in terms of action today and our current capability. We need to translate this gap into what we call a demand for climate and sustainability solution. And for us, this is really, really important to have a good understanding of what these demand for climate and sustainability solutions are. And then what we are proposing is to be able to aggregate all these demand for climate and sustainability solution coming from individual cities into one single global demand for climate and sustainability solution for all cities. And then next step is to propose to cities to have two types of target and objective. The first would be to reduce their own emission and try to achieve net zero by 2050 or earlier. But the second objective, which is, even in my view, the most important one, would be to contribute in addressing this global demand for climate and sustainability solution they share with other cities. And this is very important because this is only when they are having this attitude that they become solution provider. They will work on addressing their own issue, but they will also provide solutions that will help address the global issue of demand for climate and sustainability solution. So this is a challenge because it requires radical collaboration. But from my perspective, city alliance such as GICOM, an initiative such as the Urban Transition Mission, should really push to have this radical collaboration among cities. It's very important because it will promote what I call societal learning. Cities will learn to reinvent themselves. They will learn new patterns of working together, and they will also learn new type of relation between them and people and between them and the nature.
Thank you.
This, just last element, this is important also to have these cities working together on one single objective, because this common sense of purpose is extremely important to build. It's the glue that actually ties cities together and will encourage them to work together to achieve something that is beyond the achievement when they will work at the individual level.
Thank you very much. I think you stressed an incredibly important point, which is this willingness that it's there already, and you can see the cities here on our panel, to have this radical collaboration. So I think we are in good company in terms of understanding really the necessity for being able to work together, create a community where we can share and innovate together, co-create solutions that are not just a copy-paste, but they can be adapted to the local needs that we have in our local cities. And I want to also use your point about the importance of painting this picture of how our cities look for the future, to address again my panelists and ask Mohamed maybe first to tell me a little bit about what is the vision that your city has when it comes to bridge the challenges that we discussed, but most of all, you came into the UTM with a clear vision of how you see yourself moving towards net zero in the future. What is the image? Paint a picture for us.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I talk about challenges, about gaps. We have, I repeat that we have a strong political commitment. We work with a participatory approach. We have worked in the Vision 2030 of Chefchauen, and now we need to implement. It's very, very important. And as said Anna, we can't implement it alone. We need to have to implement with other cities, to share best practice, to share best ideas, and is why some initiative like urban transmission mission is very important, because we cities can work together, and we need to building capacity for elected people, for technical people, municipal employees, for civil society, for private sector to work together, and some technical assistant with expertise to access to finance, because in my city, in many cities in the world, especially in the intermediate cities of the global south, we don't have sufficient resources and experts. We can have easier access to climate finance. So I think that it's very important to share that, and to have peer-to-peer city, peer learning with other cities. And we need to work together at different level of government, multi-level action, because at local level we can't do it. We can implement, we can localize the climate agenda without regional level, national level, and international level. And when we have this cooperation multi-level, we can easily implement that. So I think we have is a hope, and I am optimistic.
Good.
I am optimistic, and encourage other cities around the world to come and to join this global initiative, because we can work together in all the world, and there are many ideas we can implement in this city or other city, and solution and innovation is very important to adapt at local level and the context of the continent, of the national, and that will be an opportunity to work together.
Thank you very much also for being so clear in painting a positive picture of a bright future. I think this is important for us to always have, beyond the challenges, to look at some solutions that can be implemented. Alison, I think we mentioned a little bit multi-level governance, of course, as a key enabler. What other pieces of this vision do you have for Dublin, but also as European Committee of the Regions? What are the visions that European cities are seeing and developing every day together with the stakeholders on the ground?
Yeah, I very much agree with Mohamed and also Anna, and I spoke about funded and supported multi-level governance, so the bottom-up meets top-down, north, south, east and west. I think the EU missions, those cities are a great opportunity for cities to network, as is Eurocities, ECLAI, the Covenant of the Mayors. It's the sharing and the learning. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, but we also recognize that every context in every community is different. So it's about taking someone's learning and perhaps adapting it to yours. We have a great example of that in Dublin, Smart Dublin. We work with academia, startups and tech, and we also work with our citizens. We would ask for expressions of interest to help us resolve challenges that we have. So to our community, but we also work with our citizens to test that technology and to monitor it. And I think I mentioned education before. It's a great way of bringing the community in, and they can really see the impact of measures and particularly technology. We've also gone through 3 public consultation cycles over 2 years of what we call our development plan. So it's how we want to see Dublin develop over the next 6 years. And what has underpinned that is climate. And we've 2 broad concepts: the 15-minute city, whereby everything you need is within a max of 15 minutes public transport, less if you're walking or cycling, all those key public services and public realm, but also the circular economy, that we need to get rid of the take, make and waste, reuse, recycle, regenerate in every aspect of our community. The action plan, one of the things we would advocate from Committee of the Regions is that we would have locally and regionally determined contributions to complement those NDCs. And we have our own climate action plan. We are sort of walking that walk. What we lack is the global system of monitoring and evaluation and reporting that. But we now will update our climate action plan. It was made in 2019. Update that now that we are a member of the EU mission Climate Neutral and Smart Cities, because that has made us look more ambitious towards climate neutrality, but also in light of new legislation that we passed nationally. So it's constantly keeping everything going on that road, that pathway towards climate neutrality.
Thank you. So a vision that puts climate as an anchoring piece, but then with a realm of innovation that goes beyond technology, but it really goes across the board in consultation and co-creation with your citizens. So I think it's very inspiring. Is this similar to the vision that you have in Minas Gerais, Marilia?
Thank you again, Giorgia. Yes, that's the same way that we are working with our cities. It's important to say that we start a project in 2015 when we launched the Minas Gerais Index of Climate Vulnerability, that we analyze all our cities in terms of climate vulnerability. This tool shows how likely the municipality is to be affected by adverse effects on climate based in 3 components: sensibility, exposure, and capacity to adapt to the vulnerability degree. This index must subside the definition of public policies that aim to reduce social and economic impact related to extreme climate change events especially. And in 2020, we developed another instrument called Climate in Practice. This is in adaptation of French experience that we learned with them to build support conception and create of a public policy plan for the local government, for municipalities. The Climate in Practice was created as a capacity building tool to support cities of Minas Gerais state, help them to develop low carbon initiatives and territory adaptation as the challenge that I said in the first question. The tool is based on the following strategic themes: participation, cooperation, urbanism, building environment, agriculture, because we have big rural areas in our cities as well in Brazil, livestock farming, native vegetation coverage, energy, management, and production. We are just finishing now our state plan of climate change. So the challenge now is to connect these programs that we are developing with the new goals that we define in the climate plan of the state, and to improve the collaboration and help them to move faster to these goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if I hear correctly, both from you and from Alison, I think there's still this dimension about understanding that if you cannot measure the impact that you are having, you don't really know how to manage the consequences that you have on the ground of your action or inaction, and therefore plan it well. But I also hear that it's an essential part of being able to take the plans that you currently have and to make them future-proof, so that we can not only look into stock taking as of today, but also using that as a way to really take a leapfrog to another level of reaching net zero and a resilient community. So thank you very much also for taking us through the different plans that you already have and now we are furthering them. So we heard a little bit about the challenges, we heard a little bit about some of the visions and the things that are being organized. So maybe for you, Anna and Massamba, I have a question about how do we take all these needs, all of these different demands for research and innovation that we have heard from the solutions the city want to implement. How do we make sure that we aggregate all of them and that we can bring them really to the speed and the scale that is needed to have an appropriate deployment that can help us reach the net zero by 2030, by 2050, but that really can put us on that, pathway.
Well, that's easy, yeah?
Join the UTM.
Well, the first thing I would say, we need to base ourselves on a principle. And the first principle is do not waste. International cooperation on innovation and technologies is precisely to make sure that whatever public money we are putting on finding solutions is not wasted by small, suboptimal programs, and that we can really find those solutions by working together. Mission Innovation offers a number of great examples of that. Here in the corner you have a person who's been the spirit of the heating and cooling community that's trying to find solutions for that important problem. We nowadays have missions that bring hydrogen solutions by working together, trying to reduce its cost. It also works on activities in port cities, how we can make hydrogen an element of local economy in a city and urban environment. We have similar examples for the power mission, which may also test the use of power in 100% renewable power in the urban environment. So do not waste, make sure that there is a learning between countries and between programs. The second rule is do not harm. We all have to make decisions. Someone used the expressions, it's like painting a moving plane. These are decisions how to decarbonize big living organisms in a very limited time, in a very, very fast changing environment. And for that, within Mission Innovation for Urban Transition, we will try to bring all the people who have done, tested, or considered ideas, perhaps financed ideas in the urban environment that are innovative in our annual Innovation Summit. We're hoping that you will see it next year, and I'm hoping that this is going to be the place where all the city practitioners that want to reassure themselves that innovative solutions are possible will have a place where they can discuss among their peers. The third rule is do not wait. I'm not going to develop on that. You've heard the young people outside this room as they were passing by.
Thank you very much, Anna, and also for reiterating the importance of the platform that we are really trying to create to bring together all of these different ideas and innovation. Massamba.
Yeah, I think two things are required. If we want to address the big challenge of climate and sustainability, we need to act on all the leverage points that are available to us. We need to push and we need to pull. How do we push? We need to do what we call science anticipation, follow closely what is happening in the laboratories, and anticipate the breakthrough scientific knowledge that could be translated into climate and sustainability solution that cities can use. This is the push. But we need to have a strong pull. The strong pull would be to have a good understanding of what the demand for climate and sustainability solution of cities are. Because for the solution developer to be able to work on relevant solution, they need first to know what the problem is, what is the demand for solution. So we have been extremely quick and swift in addressing COVID-19 because the solution developer were clear about what the demand for solution is. They knew that it was urgent to produce a vaccine in a very short timeline, and they did it. So the same apply here. If you want the solution developer to bring the solutions that are relevant to cities, they need to understand what the demand for climate and sustainability is. Yesterday or the day before yesterday, we had a meeting with a development bank. They were saying exactly the same thing. We want to invest in the development of climate and sustainability solution, but we do not know sustainability solution. We need to invest in R. So it's really critical to develop this global demand for climate and sustainable solution for cities. And I would like to reiterate our strong willingness to collaborate with GCOM, and Andy is in the room, and to collaborate with the Urban Transition Mission to together build this global demand for climate and sustainability solution for cities.
Thank you very much, Massamba. And unfortunately, we are almost at time, and I have the pleasure to give a very hard job, to be honest, to Gregor Robertson, our Global Covenant of Mayors Ambassador, to do a wrap-up. But before I give you the floor, Gregor, I just want to note that I saw some of the cities that have applied for UTM also in the room. In particular, there might be more, but I see Risto Veivo from Turku in Finland, and I see João Danish here from Cascais in Portugal. If you want to know more about why cities are trying to join on the pathway to become climate neutral, please do feel free to stop by and have a conversation with these guys. They are doing amazing work and they can share their vision. Gregor, I leave you the podium.
Thanks, Giorgia. And first of all, a big thank you to Massamba and the whole Global Innovation Hub team for hosting us here today and for your leadership. Very strong out of the gate to this notion of radical collaboration. And I see lots of faces here who have a track record of getting people together in new, innovative ways to force change to happen in a positive way. And I want to recognize Mayor Sefiani and his positive vision that's connected at a community level, as well as we heard from Anna in Dublin. That engagement with people on the ground and delivering the solutions is absolutely critical to our success. And I think we have willing partners on the streets of our cities who are dealing with crisis to deal with impacts every single day around the world. They want the solutions delivered. So how do we enable that? We had great ideas. I think that the work that's happened, that Anna has done with the European Commission to deliver the Urban Transitions Mission to select 50 cities to show us the pathway to net zero. We don't really know what the pathways are, but we know we have lots of tools, we have lots of innovation and technology, we have the connection on the ground, Alison and Mohamed mentioned, to the people on the ground, and the businesses that can deliver the solutions. It does come back around to all the levels of government working together, and a state government. We're honored to have that representation here to recognize between the cities and the national governments, you're caught in the middle, which is a tricky spot to be. I think all of this rolls up to we have to apply more pressure to our national governments. We're asking for 1/3 of research and innovation funding to go to climate solutions in cities. It's the most urgent thing we can do is to take that funding, mobilize academia, mobilize the business community, mobilize in our cities with those solutions. That's the radical collaboration that we hear here from Massamba and the team. We need that pressure to flow up to those national governments who are doing lots of talking here. We need to see the action that brings us all together to collaborate and deliver those solutions. So thank you all to our great panelists and all of you for taking the action forward on behalf of our cities getting to net zero. Thank you.
I can just say thank you. And thank you also from my side, of course, to all of my marvelous panelists and also to all of you audience. Chefchauen is part of the UTM. So are Belo Horizonte e Cogem. Congratulations. Cascais, And Turku also in, so looking forward to welcoming you all. More to be seen. Thank you very much for being with us, and keep up to speed with what is happening. Watch this space. It's going to be a place for innovation, co-creation, and a clean energy future.